Madame Clarabelle's parlor sat between a dodgy pawn shop and a defunct bakery. The kind of place you'd miss if not for the hot pink neon sign flickering, "Fortunes told here." A single purple curtain at the entrance promised mysterious wonders. Inside, incense smoke and 1,000 prismatic reflections from cheap crystal beads cloaked the cramped space in an aura of dramatic flair. At first glance, it was exactly the sort of shop you might stumble into if you sought your destiny and expected a grand reveal. But in reality, Madame Clarabelle was known around town for delivering the most dazzling spectacle of absolutely nothing. From the moment you set foot in her lair, you were bombarded with theatrical gasps, ominous drumbeat sound effects insisted upon by Clarabelle's nephew pressing buttons in the corner, and clarion calls of doom-laden prophecy. But the fortunes themselves? They tended to revolve around the dryness of your carrots, the day your dentist appointment reminder slip would arrive in the mail, or whether you'd be able to find a place to park at the grocery store. Somehow that discrepancy between her flamboyant style and the humdrum predictions never fazed her fervent fans, who believed there must be hidden depths to these dull announcements. "Enter, O seeker," boomed Madame Clarabelle one crisp Tuesday morning, beckoning a middle-aged woman named Joanna through the curtain. Clarabelle wore at least 20 bangles and rings, and her enormous jeweled turban flashed every time she nodded. She was so excited to begin that she almost tripped over her tasseled chair. With dramatic flair, she jerked her crystal ball from a paisley tablecloth and set it down with an air of great importance. "I can sense your desire for the truth, my dear." Joanna shifted uncomfortably, glancing around the cluttered space. Tassels hung from the ceiling, beaded curtains rustled in whatever cross breeze made it through the cracks, and the odor of incense mingled with a suspicious potpourri of unsold bakery goods from next door. But Miss Clarabelle's contrived mystique commanded attention. Joanna sat, purse in lap, eyes flicking to the crystal ball, a swirling pink luminescence. "I see. Oh!" Clarabelle sucked in a breath, so forceful it sounded like an entire windstorm caught in her windpipe. She clutched her chest in pure theatrical shock. "This is tremendous news indeed. Prepare yourself. It's coming in clearly now." Joanna leaned forward, heart pounding. She'd come here because her friend had bragged about a stomach-churning revelation she had received concerning an upcoming dentist appointment. Now Joanna wanted her own premonition, something to spice up her life. "There will come a time, dear one, in the near future, nay, it is practically upon you, when you shall open your fridge, and you shall discover that your milk is almost expired." Clarabelle's eyes closed, her voice rising to the rafters. "Yes, oh yes, there's no mistake. You will check the label, see that the date says the milk expires on Thursday, and you, oh poor child, will weigh whether it's safe to pour it in your morning cereal on Wednesday or not. The tension will be unbearable. Yet you shall gamble on your senses, you shall take a whiff, dare I say, a risky move, and determine if it remains usable. Such is your fate." Joanna blinked, mouth agape. She might have been expecting romance, career changes, or epic journeys, but sour milk? That wasn't on her radar. Yet Madame Clarabelle banged her fist on the table in finality, rings clacking. "That is all I can see for now," she announced, as though uttering the final words of a Greek tragedy. "Well," Joanna ventured slowly, "that's interesting." "Isn't it just?" cried the fortune teller, snapping her fingers at the corner where her nephew promptly played a recording of thunderclaps to accentuate the drama. "I know. The spirit realm reveals what it will, dear. We do not choose the message chooses us." Joanna left the parlor with a curious mix of fascination, amusement, and mild disappointment. But by the time Thursday evening rolled around, she did indeed smell something funky in her milk jug, and she told everyone at her weekly pottery class about how frighteningly accurate Madame Clarabelle's predictions proved to be. Word spread, as it often does in small towns, and business boomed. Day after day, customers arrived expecting breakthroughs, or at least some bizarre new flavor of tedium. Clarabelle delivered, with swirling hand gestures and sweeping statements. Occasionally her fortunes even hinted at something more eventful, but the drama never lived up to the hype. One day she told a teenager named Kevin that great tidings of comfort and joy awaited him that Friday. It turned out Kevin's teacher decided to cancel a pop quiz and let the class have a study period. She was right. Kevin told his friends, and I got to watch cat videos instead of solving equations. It was unbelievably amazing. A chain reaction of hype swept through the community. Everybody felt compelled to seek out these mundane but oddly enthralling glimpses of the future. Friends would compare predictions, bicker over clarifications, and find themselves bizarrely proud if Clarabelle had chosen them to receive a forecast about discovering an unmatched sock in the dryer. It all came true, they'd exclaim in hushed tones at dinner parties. Every single detail. One muggy Saturday afternoon, a local mechanic named Trevor ducked through the purple curtain, the bells jingling overhead. His face was full of skepticism, but he had been dragged there by his sister, who swore Clarabelle's revelations had saved her from a minor inconvenience. Trevor's greasy coveralls and oil-stained fingers contrasted starkly with Clarabelle's glitzy outfit, but she received him with open arms. "Rejoice, good sir," she proclaimed, performing a sweeping bow that caused a few of her bangles to clatter to the floor. "I see in you a thirst for knowledge. The ethereal plane has a message for you this day. You must heed it closely, for it will soon unveil itself, subtle yet unstoppable, like the early morning dew upon a rose." Trevor wrinkled his brow. "Uh-huh," he replied, fighting back a grin. Despite his doubts, he couldn't help being charmed by Clarabelle's theatrics. She was so committed to the bit that it was nearly admirable. "Consult the orbs, sweet child," she boomed, tossing a handful of glitter over the crystal ball. Whether it was purely decorative or a part of some magical rite, no one knew. The ball shimmered and Clarabelle leaned in as though hearing some faint whisper. "Ah, oh my, this is a strong one indeed." Her voice dropped, becoming solemn. "Allow me to warn you. On Tuesday next you shall awaken 2 minutes before your alarm clock goes off." Trevor's eyes widened. "Wait, that's it? No, no, the forces speak further." She raised a hand in a halted gesture. "Hear this additional tidbit, gleaned from the shimmering astral planes. You, Trevor, will be forced to wait behind a particularly slow driver at the traffic light, and you shall complain, yet do nothing. The ephemeral energies suggest you will run 3 minutes late to your next appointment. I pray you can endure such tribulations." Trevor stared, stunned. Then he burst out laughing, so loud that her nephew hit the wrong button on the soundboard, producing a random squeaking noise rather than the intended thunderclap. "Okay, that's a good one, lady," Trevor said, wiping tears from his eyes. "I'll be sure to watch the clock on Tuesday." Contrary to what he expected, Tuesday arrived and played out exactly as foretold. He groggily flopped out of bed, sighed at the clock that read 6:58 a.m., even though his alarm was set for 7. The clock then got stuck behind a green sedan traveling 5 miles below the speed limit. He reached the shop a few minutes late and realized, with mild surprise, that Clarabelle's prophecy had been eerily on point. It wasn't earth-shattering, but it did induce that odd tingle of having foreseen the future, even if the future was something as trivial as early wake-ups and slow drivers. Before long, the entire town was under the thrall of these comedic prophecies. A retired couple, Mr. and Mrs. Crispin, came by one sparkling morning. They took seats at the circular table, arms folded like they expected a cheery fortune about a grandchild's birth or a dream vacation. Clarabelle rummaged in her tiny chest of props, scattering star-shaped confetti. She cleared her throat with practiced gusto. "I see 2 formidable spirits before me. Ah, your bond is quite strong. The visions come swiftly now." Mrs. Crispin laughed, patting her husband's hand. "We've been married 35 years, if that's what you mean." "Yes, we're close," Clarabelle nodded emphatically, like she'd just solved a cosmic puzzle. "So close you are fated to experience this day a most perilous journey to the local gardening store," she gasped, placing a hand on her heart. "Yes, you will depart your humble abode at precisely 10:13 a.m., arriving at the store at 10:29 a.m. But wait, I see, oh dear me, I see a traffic jam in aisle 3 of the store. Several customers crowding the seed packets, a clerk restocking fertilizer. You will be forced, I say, to wait a solid 2 minutes before they clear the aisle. This is no small matter, as it shall test your legendary patience. Then, behold, the final revelation. The tomato plants you desire will be out of stock. She gasped, nearly toppling off her chair. Mr. Crispin snorted in amusement. We only wanted marigolds, he muttered, but wondered with a small flicker of curiosity if maybe the tomato section would indeed be empty. Later that day, they discovered the store was fresh out of tomatoes thanks to a gardening class that had raided the place. That was enough for the Crispins to declare the prophecy spot on, and, surprisingly, they felt a strange thrill at being so accurately seen by the cosmos. Word of mouth traveled like wildfire, and there was soon a queue outside Clarabelle's door spanning the block. She didn't raise her prices, didn't claim to see winning lottery numbers, nor did she reveal any truly earth-shattering events. She stuck to honking traffic jams, awkward run-ins with neighbors, and the occasional forecast about running out of printer ink at a crucial, though not life-altering moment. Still, people flocked to her, compelled by some mixture of curiosity and the bizarre sense of reassurance that maybe the real secrets of life lurked in being prepared for the minor disasters. "All right, who's next?" Clarabelle asked one day, pressing the button on her remote that made her battered tape recorder produce the standard thunderclap. Her nephew, bored out of his mind after days of pressing random sound effect buttons, just kept the illusions afloat by stoking the incense burner. "Step forward and meet your fate." In shuffled a young couple, Eloise and Maynard. They were celebrating their second anniversary, and Eloise thought it would be fun to share a fortune session together. Maynard was uneasy, glancing at Clarabelle's elaborate costume. Clarabelle scanned them with wide, theatrical eyes. Ah, a pair of lovers stepping into the shadow of the great unknown. How delightful. She tapped her chin, studying the swirling surface of the crystal ball. Aha! I see something. It appears. Oh my goodness, the epicness of this cannot be overstated. Soon you will be faced with the most crucial decision. Whether to watch a rerun of your favorite TV show or to start that new historical drama your cousin recommended. And you shall debate. Oh, it will be fiery indeed. You, Eloise, are tempted by the familiarity of your comfort show, while you, Maynard, crave novelty. The tension thickens, it rises, and in the end, you both settle on the old comfort show anyway, with the promise to watch the new series next week. Maynard glanced at Eloise with an embarrassed shrug. That scenario was their usual dynamic. But Clarabelle continued, "Yes, dear hearts, compromise lies in the mundane middle." Then, oh gracious me, the second part of the message reveals a matter of the utmost seriousness. Tomorrow morning your toast shall burn while you're distracted scrolling on your phone. Eloise burst into a hearty laugh, jabbing Maynard lightly in the ribs. "You always forget to check the toaster, honey." Clarabelle's nailed it. Behind her veils and smoky lighting, the fortune teller preened, apparently well pleased with her customer's reaction. Plenty of muffled giggling drifted through the curtains as more curious patrons inched forward. A hush fell when a stern-looking man in a sharp suit, presumably some visiting bigwig or lawyer, appeared at the entrance. He had the restless look of someone who expected real prophecy. His posture was rigid as a steel beam, and his furrowed brow revealed skepticism. He'd come on a recommendation from a colleague who insisted Clarabelle's predictions were spookily accurate, but from the outside, looking in, it all seemed like a grift. "Sit, dear sir," Clarabelle intoned, flourishing her arms so wide that the sequined cuffs nearly smacked him in the face. "I sense an urgent query burning within your soul. Let me see if the cosmos has an answer. Do not fear, for I am merely the conduit, the messenger." He reluctantly lowered himself into the plush chair, crossing his legs. "I'm Augustus Tarrington," he introduced, as though expecting that to mean something. "I'm in marketing, and I'm not easily impressed. My coworkers told me your predictions were inexplicably correct. I figured I'd see for myself." "Ha!" Clarabelle cackled, pressing a button for dramatic Egyptian flute music that warbled out of the battered speaker. "A skeptic! Delicious! The spirits love to convert the toughest minds. Let's see here." She waved her hands over the crystal ball, eyes rolling back. "I see an upcoming trial of your patience that will come swift as the wind. Tomorrow, Wednesday, you will order coffee. Yes, you frequently do that, it seems. But oh, the drama. You will forget to specify that you want oat milk, forcing the barista to start over. The line behind you will mutter with faint annoyance. Bend but do not break, dear Augustus, for you will absolutely swear you told them in the first place. But the barista, oh, that barista, she will claim otherwise. Ultimately, you will end up waiting an extra 2 minutes, thoroughly inconvenienced. Augustus's face was unreadable. Maybe he was thinking it was the lamest prophecy ever. But sure enough, he showed up to pick up coffee the next morning, said latte with oat, and realized he'd left off the word milk. When handed a plain black coffee, he stammered that he'd requested oat milk, which didn't make the slightest sense. The barista blinked, apologized, started again, and the line behind him huffed collectively. By the time Augustus reached his office, he was uncomfortably reminded of Claribel's prophecy. He sat at his desk, unsettled, reconsidering the flamboyant fortune teller who called this tiny event so precisely. Meanwhile, Claribel continued her routine of flamboyant nonchalance, occasionally ensuring her nephew had enough batteries for the soundboard and her chest of glitter was stocked. She gave predictions ranging from, "Your library book will be overdue by 1 day," to, "You'll run out of staples during that essential printing job." And each time, her customers walked away, smirking yet strangely satisfied. There was a novelty in witnessing the inevitability of life's humdrum moments play out as if touched by fate. As the days rolled on, Claribel's popularity soared, to the point that local news outlets demanded interviews. She'd stand in front of the camera, flamboyant turban glimmering in the midday sun, and proclaim, "Yes, that's right, I have gleaned from the spirits that tomorrow's weather may be partly cloudy in the morning, clarifying into a modestly warm afternoon. Take heed, dear watchers, carry an umbrella if you wish, but you might not need it." The local meteorologist, ironically, confirmed her forecast, unable to stifle a grin. At times, Claribel seemed exhausted by her own theatrics, but she never dropped the act. She clung to her persona like a stage performer on closing night, determined to give the best show every time. Her flamboyance came as naturally to her as breathing. To her, each tiny vision of the future was as important as a prophecy about a new king or the alignment of planets. Caring about the small stuff seemed to be her life's purpose, and that unwavering conviction turned her from a sideshow curiosity into a local legend. Yet, ironically, her mundane predictions had unintended consequences. People started forming lines at the coffee shop earlier, anticipating the crowds. They preemptively replaced their milk before expiration. The sense of readiness spread, even if it was readiness for trivialities. Some folks claimed it gave them more mental space for bigger concerns, ironically. "Since I knew about the jam in aisle 3, said Mr. Crispin one day, "I didn't get frustrated. I just took my time testing out gardening gloves. No meltdown or anything." He patted a new pair of gloves joyously. Young Kevin boasted to his friends that he had no fear of pop quizzes anymore. "Guess what? Madame Claribel told me I'd have a surprise geometry test next Tuesday, but guess who studied Monday night? I aced it." The townsfolk joked that Claribel's next grand prophecy would be the color of your next pair of socks. But if it helped them avoid a small annoyance, they considered it a thrill worth seeking. Soon, a traveling circus came through, bringing additional curiosities to the already colorful locale. One evening, with the circus beckoning from the outskirts of town, Claribel's nephew decided to pay a visit to a fortune teller from the traveling troupe, a woman known for her visions of catastrophic events. It was rumored she once named the exact date of a hailstorm. He thought it might be interesting to see how her prophecies compared to Claribel's. However, the circus seer's forecast was so dramatic, something about floods and swarms of locusts, that it felt disconnected from reality. The nephew left feeling uneasy. He realized Claribel's brand of everyday predictions actually resonated more with him and presumably the townsfolk, because they were plausible. Sure, it lacked epic flair, but maybe that was precisely what made it worthwhile. Back at the parlor, Claribel was seeing her final client for the evening, a teenager named Carmen, worried about missing out on her best friend's birthday. Claribel took Carmen's trembling hands and stared deeply into the crystal ball. The swirling pink inside seemed to glow a shade brighter. She inhaled slowly, exhaling a puff of glitter-laden air. "A hush falls over the world," she whispered. I must concentrate to retrieve your prophecy. Yes, it's forming. Oh, my child, the cosmic energies want you to know that tomorrow you must check your phone battery before leaving the house. If you do not, calamity awaits. The battery will run out while you're trying to navigate to the party venue, and you'll bounce between wrong turns for an extra 10 minutes. You'll still make it, but you'll miss the surprise entrance. Rescue your battery, rescue your moment. If the battery rescue your moment. Carmen slapped her forehead. I always forget my charger, she moaned, half laughing. Thank you, Madame Clarabelle. I guess I'll plug my phone in tonight. Exhausted, Clarabelle rose and escorted the teenager out. Her nephew doused the incense and silence settled over the tiny shop. With a long theatrical sigh, though now it seemed more genuine, Clarabelle collapsed into a velvet-backed chair. She removed her glittery turban and revealed an ordinary mass of hair, pinned in a messy bow. The illusions were left behind for the night, a private moment of realness. She stared at her reflection in the crystal ball, swirling with the last remnants of luminescent color, and smiled. She wasn't sure if she truly believed she had special powers, or if all her predictions were the result of an uncanny knack for reading patterns in everyday life. But the people seemed comforted, that much was clear. Gazing up, she caught her own expression in an ornate mirror. The flamboyant persona had a tinge of loneliness behind it, as though part of her wished she had bigger revelations to offer world-changing announcements. But in the quiet space after a long day, she realized that sometimes the small, predictable hurdles of everyday life were the ones that truly weighed people down. Her predictions, while laughably mundane, gave them a forewarning, a semblance of control over the daily grind. She ran a hand over the crystal ball's smooth surface, hearing its faint hum. Well, she murmured to an empty room, why aim for star-shaking revelations when knowing the car will need a tire rotation next week could save someone frustration? She thought of the Crispins, of Trevor, of Joanna and her almost sour milk. Small as they were, these trifles might be the key to gently guiding people toward an easier tomorrow. And for reasons she couldn't fully define, that seemed worthwhile. In the following days, a new wave of visitors arrived. They'd heard Clarabelle sometimes gave small reassurances or even mild encouragement. One college student, suffering from test anxiety, came hoping for solace. Clarabelle took a deep breath, then declared in her most sincere voice, tomorrow, you'll misplace your favorite pen and have to borrow one from a friend. That's all. But if I may add, that friend you ask, he will study with you afterward. You'll get the help you need. Remember, missing a pen is not such a tragedy if it leads you to something better. Moved by the hopeful twist, the student left with a grin. And yes, he did misplace his pen, did borrow one from a kind-hearted classmate, and ended up forming a valuable study group that semester. Perhaps Clarabelle was simply predicting the small stuff she sensed might happen if people opened themselves to minor acts of kindness or caution. It might not be reality-shattering, but it eased some tensions in daily life. Every so often, Clarabelle humored the idea of stepping into a grander prophecy. Perhaps one day she could announce, a meteor shall streak across the sky next harvest moon, or the mayor shall be visited by a poltergeist. But the more she considered it, the more she realized such grand proclamations felt hollow. The real magic of her craft was in noticing the little details, the subtle patterns that shaped people's mornings and evenings, their coffee breaks and grocery runs. Still, her nephew, who'd grown quite comfortable with the comedic timing of thunderclaps and squeaky sound effects, occasionally egged her on to aim bigger. He'd whisper, a hurricane? Or maybe a scandal at City Hall, right? That'd be a showstopper. She'd shrug, wave him off, and keep her predictions limited to things like, you'll trip over the neighbor's cat next weekend, or you might want to check the bleach bottle for enough detergent. Her customers ate it up, sure as sunshine, and left with the same sense of surreal delight. Sure, those on the outside might have scoffed, yet no one could deny the comedic attraction of a fortune teller who needed epic thunderclap sound effects and glitter to announce that your bread might go stale if you didn't close the bag properly. People discovered it was oddly comforting, almost nurturing, and they spread the word further. Eventually, the mania quieted somewhat, as manias tend to do. Life in the town returned to its usual rhythms, only with the gentle undercurrent that these small predictions were out there, popping up wherever Clarabelle spotted them. The lines dissipated, the demand slowed, a few folks moved on, content they'd gotten a glimpse into the comedic side of fate. But Clarabelle remained at her post, signs still glowing pink, ready for anyone who drifted in. And so it was that on a cloudy afternoon, the parlor sat empty but for Clarabelle herself, flipping through a magazine. She figured the day might remain quiet until a timid knock sounded at the door. A young woman with worry lines on her forehead peeked in. Excuse me, Madame Clarabelle, she said timidly. I'm about to start a new job. I'm worried about messing up on my first day. My cousin told me you see things. Could you read my fortune, even if it's something silly? Madame Clarabelle, unstoppable showwoman that she was, leapt to her feet and rolled her shoulders back. It was go time. Ah, sweet child, come in, she cried, voice echoing with exaggerated drama. I sense that tomorrow you shall place your coffee cup precariously on the edge of your desk, and it will teeter ominously, yet hold firm. You will catch it at the last second before a spill, thus saving you a small embarrassment. The young woman exhaled with relief, a half smile tugging at her lips. Something about hearing that even a small crisis could be averted gave her a boost of confidence. Imagining that scenario in her mind, the tension in her shoulders eased. Thank you, she whispered, and Clarabelle offered a gracious smile in return. And that was the magic of Madame Clarabelle's mundane prophecies. Perhaps not the radiant beacon of cosmic truth people envision when they beg to see their destiny, but an honest, affirming sense that sometimes the greatest relief stems from dodging a small misstep or being ready for a common inconvenience. If the future was just a series of minor inconveniences, maybe that could be reassuring in its own way. And if it wasn't, well, at least there might be a new friend with a pen or a reason to replace the milk. Through flourishing gestures, swirling smoke, and a big dose of comedic overkill, Madame Clarabelle managed to make the daily grind feel a little less scary and a little more enchanting, one small, hilarious prediction at a time.